Welcome to Gotta Run. This is Will Sanchez. Thank you for tuning in. I have two very special guests today. Longtime coach John Garlepp and coach Claude Meliarenne. I'm honored to have these two great guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Let's start with you, coach.
Yes.
Years ago, I ran into you in Central Park. You were coaching GLM, and my trainer at that time, you may know him, Mark Heller. And I said something, and you said to me, Mark Heller, he trains himself. So that was back in 2004 or 5. So I never forgot that because I think I was taken aback by your honesty and bluntness. So this is something you always enjoyed?
Yes, you definitely. You always do that when somebody's very nosy. Absolutely. I'm telling you the truth. That's the way it is.
I wanted to mention that you have a few people that adore you. Mark Heller, he's my trainer, and when I mentioned I was going to see you, he wanted to know you were still alive. And I said, yeah, very much so. And of course, also Herbie Medina.
Right.
I think he mentioned that sometimes he wouldn't show up on time. So any funny stories about Coach or Herbie Medina?
No, I can't recall that. It's been too long. He's left us too many years ago. I don't know. It was 15 years he's been gone. You know,
Oh my God.
He's been running around. So I haven't. I just see him occasionally, and that's about it. But no, I mean, you got to remember, we're talking the 60s. And what year is it now? 2019 coming up here? What is this?
That's right, you're right, Coach. Your memories are fabulous.
I have trouble remembering my grandchildren's name. What, are you kidding me? But
And Coach Claude, we know each other back, 10 years ago in Nike Town?
Right,
You were one of the Pacers.
Correct.
And I had no idea you were formerly of the Millrose.
Yeah, I've been Millrose since I'm the age of 9, so for almost 38 years.
My God, did your parents introduce you to that?
No, actually, I used to run for the CYO out of Queens, St. Joan of Arc, and I met Coach Barry Geisler, who was the children's AA Millrose coach at the time. So met him at the Nationals in 1979, and since then I've joined the team and been part of it, in one form or another, helping out John.
Excellent. And you maintain a Facebook page.
I do.
40 to 50 diehards that keep track.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got a lot of great photos of the coach. Have you seen your photos on Facebook?
no, I don't much. I don't look on the Facebook at all. I'm an old timer. I'm lucky I have a phone.
All right, Coach. Let's go into Millrose. Why is the team name Millrose?
Well, the Millrose was the name of John Wanamaker's summer home. I don't know why he chose that as the name, but that's been the name since 1908. And in fact, the Millrose games and everything, I mean, I dropped the AA because I don't really think much of their, that. I just go with the Millrose now. And I happened to join the team in 1961. I happened to, the fourth race I ran was a 30K. And I finished behind Aldo Scandura, who was one of the top runners then. He also was the president of Row Runners Club, and he was almost the head of the long distance people. And he asked me if I'd be interested in running with the Millrose, and I was happy to join the team. And so I've been running with them since 61, well, coaching and running. And I don't think I would have went anywhere around the world if I hadn't started running, because I've gone to London, to France, to South Africa.
As a runner?
As a coach and a runner.
Okay.
I took the women's team that won the London to Brighton to South Africa. And they wanted me to go with them, so I did go. I went with them. But there's another story right there. South Africa is still backward as far as that,
Wait a minute, that's the Comrades. They're
Yes.
famous for Comrades.
Yes.
So you took the women's team to run Comrades?
They wouldn't let us in as a team. They made them run individually. They wouldn't allow us as a team. But I figured, with the fact that we won the London to Brighton, You take them to South, because South Africa used to send their team to London to Brighton to win. So I just assumed, and it was a mistake, but still everybody enjoyed the trip.
To South Africa.
Yes, it was very good.
Fascinating that you get to travel so extensively. But let's go back to that London to Brighton. That's a fairly well-known race. What's the distance and how does it work? Is it a relay? What is it?
No. You run the whole, everybody has to run the 52 miles. And that's funny how the first time I went up to Van Cortlandt, there was a 3 mile on the track. And then they said there was a 45 mile. And this was in 65, I guess. And I figured, the 3 miles too fast for me. Let me go run. So the fact that I, at that time, was a 2:48 marathon, I didn't know it was a handicap race. Everybody got a head start on me.
Oh, because your time was pretty good.
Yeah, well, and I wound up catching everybody and ran 4 hours and 49 minutes.
What distance?
45 miles.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so first thing they said was, we got to measure this course over again. But what happened was, a week later, the coach came over to me. I can't think of his name right now. And gave me $300. Said, you're the fastest man on the team that's going to London to Brighton. And that's how I...
Now, you were part of Millrose at that time?
Yes.
Oh.
No, that's what I'm saying. This was in 65.
Okay.
What the heck is the coach's name?
It'll come to you later.
He held a record in the Millrose Games, and I think he might have been in the Olympics also. Mike Devaney. Mike Devaney is.
I must admit, I don't know that name. There's so much history.
He passed away in 67. That was one of the best years the team ever had. We won so many championships and everything. It was really amazing. And then he passed away. In fact, I won the marathon that year.
What year was that?
67.
Now, which marathon? New York City?
Yeah, Cherry Tree.
Oh, this is before it became New York.
Well, the big thing made it because I beat Johnny Kelly, who was the Olympic champion at the time, our Olympic champion.
Wow.
And that was a big thing.
Now, Cherry Tree occurred in what time
February.
of the year? Isn't that
Washington's
kind of cold?
birthday. Yeah, well, all our races were then. It's really the New York Marathon, period.
The original, before it became the five-borough.
And, in fact, Ted Corbett won it when they started the Roadrunners Club in 1959. He won the first one.
The first Cherry Tree.
Cherry Tree.
Okay.
Yes.
Because the first New York City Marathon was run by
Gary Murky. Yeah.
Everybody knows that story. At least I know that story. The Cherry Tree, I don't
He's
know
a
that
teammate, so we, plus he's also the London to Brighton.
He was there when you
Yeah,
did.
he finished third.
All right.
That's
so
what I'm saying.
when you guys did the London to Brighton, you guys were the first Americans to be considered the winners. Well, how did it determine it was the top three finishers?
Well, on time, they total of times, I think. The
For-
lowest, yeah.
for the top three
For the
or-
first three. The
First three. And so you guys had the best.
Now,
the
here's
first-
another thing.
Yeah.
Nobody realizes that the three guys that won it all won the New York Marathon.
Did you mean the Cherry Tree?
New York Marathon. I don't care. You call it Cherry Tree. No, Norm Sanders won the marathon in Central Park, and Gary Murky won the first one, and I won the one in 67 that was in the Bronx.
The Cherry Tree. We have to be very clear because everybody knows Gary Murky won the first New York City, it's considered the first New York City Marathon.
Yeah, but that's baloney.
Okay, Coach. But our audience, I don't want to confuse them. You guys are champions. When you went to London, you guys came in first. Now, the women also did very well, right?
This was later. When I took them there in 2003, 2004 it was, something like that. But
The Millrose women.
yes,
And you took it. What happened then?
they won it.
They
They
came in
won. They
first.
were the first ones to ever score for women. No women's team ever scored because nobody got under the time. But they won it, and a British team also made it under the thing.
They came in second because they followed you guys.
Well, Ellen McCurtain, she finished in the top 10. She might have been 7th overall. She was the reason I took them because I figured her time, she could run an hour faster than anybody other than women that I looked around the world. And the other runners were all in their 50s that we had. And I knew all of them could get under the time that they needed. And that's exactly what she won, beat everybody by more, and they won it.
My gosh, it's so interesting because we're mixing up your running with your coaching. So do you consider yourself a better coach or a better runner? What are you in your mind?
I'm about 8 for
8.
coaching and running.
Oh, okay. So you consider yourself equally good equally bad, coaching and running, depending on your perspective.
Yeah, no.
But I think most people consider you extremely good. They consider you. I remember Mark Heller saying that you were a really cool customer, but you were a gentleman about things. Even though you could be blunt, they still love you for it anyway.
Well, see, as a coach too, if you're around for a long time, you have people that will hurt themselves. You have to get to know your individuals, and you have to tell them, you know, what's wrong with what they're doing. You know, it's because I've seen guys. I mean, they don't know when to stop, and they get sick. You know, or you get injuries and everything. You know, you have to tell them. I think a lot of coaches probably in college and stuff, I don't even know if they think about stuff like that. But also, I'm working with people that have jobs. They're amateurs. And you have to find out. Like I had one fellow was running with us, and I had another coach. He was coaching him, and they were running 200 meters indoors. And he didn't seem to be doing too well. So I called him over after he ran a couple. I says, "What have you been doing this week?" He says, "Oh, I've been working overtime." On a job. No, on his job.
Yeah.
So I called his coach over. I said, "You realize your guy has been working overtime this week and you're trying to get him to run how fast?" I says, "You got to make him run it easier. You know, back it off a few seconds. When he's fresh, it's different. But when the guy's tired, you can't push him. He's going to hurt himself." No, but I'm saying even coaches, some of the guys don't pay attention to what each individual does. You're not a professional.
Right,
That's not what.
Well, that's very interesting, Coach. So you're really a self-taught coach. You're an observer of human nature, because you know you took the time to find out the little bit of the history of this runner that was not doing so well. You found out he's overworking himself, and you took some action. I assume the runner appreciated that. In general, were you appreciated when you did those kind of things, when you spoke up?
Well, what was good though was when the guy went and he won his race. That's when you know, or he did very well, better than he thought. You know, that's the thing. You know, and I coach from a lot of my own experiences over the years. A lot of the stuff I tell the guys is I definitely did some of these things, and I know what happens.
All right, Coach. Coach, let's go back to the beginning. Tell us where you were born, something about your growing up years, if you can remember back 80 years.
Yeah, well, I was born in Bushwick Hospital in Brooklyn. And I tell everybody I ran across the bridge, and I was living in Manhattan then. But I lived everywhere. I lived in Harlem. I lived in all parts. You know, my parents it was tough. And but most of my growing up was in the Heights and Inwood. I went to PS 189.
In the Heights?
Yes. And I had a tremendous teacher, Miss Brady. He's the one that told me to go down in 1950 to try out for Little League, the first Little League they ever had in New York. And as I went along, I thought I was the toughest guy going at 155 pounds, so I went into the Golden Globes for a few years. And I made it to the quarterfinal. I finished in the final. And then I hurt my wrist, and I skipped a year, and I came back, and they had me down as the favorite, and I lost my first fight. But here's another thing. Everybody I lost to won the championship.
Oh, so you already lose to the best.
No, but it was kind of weird though. But
either that, or you made them the best.
But now I get to I get married. I moved to the Bronx, 175th Street in Popham. My wife worked on Sundays at the telephone company, and I like to stay in shape for basketball. So I went down to McCombs Dam. I was familiar with the park. They got nice lockers and a track across the street. So when I got finished working out, I met this guy, Bill Steiner. I call him an old guy. He was probably late, maybe middle 50s. Anyway, he said he ran 6 miles on the road. I said, "What?" And he said he did it almost every week. So I said, "Could I try with you next week?" He says, "Yeah, same time." So that's what I did. The next week I ran with him. We ran from Yankee Stadium up to Fordham Road and back. And I felt so good after it. He wasn't fast or slow. He was just steady. So then he suggests to me, "Well, why don't you try that 9-mile cross-country race at the end of the month?" This was like October, and that was November. So I started running, but now I worked in Pelham Manor, and I lived on 175th Street. So after I came home a couple of days, I said, "Wait a minute, I can start running to work every morning." So I ran to work. It was about 6 miles. It was funny. When I got into work, I was all pumped up till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So come the 9 miler, which is a tough course. 3 times around, I don't know if you ever been up there, on the 3 mile loop on the Van Cortlandt.
Yep.
Well, I did 63 minutes, which is not bad.
9 miles?
Yeah. At that time, most of them were all runners. There were 68 guys, and I was 43, I think, in the race.
43rd?
Yeah, but I'm saying, but now you look at that, a lot of people don't do that. But here's another thing. I was telling the guys, well, where do you go from here? So they said, well, we go into the armory. And I said, what are you going to run, a mile or 2? So here's where I always say, the ignorance is bliss. I figured I'm going to kill these guys. So I go to the armory. So when I get in there, Tom Burns, I had a handicap 2 mile. So Tom Burns says, how fast is you run a mile? I says, I never ran a mile. I ran 9 miles, the only thing I ever ran. So he started laughing. So he gave me the handicap bump. Anyway, the gun goes off. They were running so damn fast. I got dizzy. And then I hear somebody yelling, get off the track, you bum. And I says, nobody calls me a bum. I'm from Brooklyn. So anyway, I went back to watch the next couple of meets. And I'll tell you another thing. When you ran indoors in them days, I was coughing for 3 or 4 days before I got over running with that hot, dry air.
Inside the armory.
Yeah. Wow. And McArdle ran 9 minutes flat that night that I on that race.
McArdle. What a name from the
Pete
past.
McArdle, yes.
That's a
So
race name after him, I think.
the next race I find out is a 4 miler on Sedgwick Avenue where I ran with Bill Steiner, and I live right there. So I go over it, it's a handicap again. And so Tom Burns didn't even ask me. He gives me 4 minutes. There was a couple of guys had 5 minutes.
4 minutes head start. You had to.
Yeah.
Okay.
I almost won the race. I was almost at the finish line. I got a stitch. And I went like this, and a guy nipped me. But I ran 23:40 something, which is fantastic. I could not believe I ran that fast.
How old were you at that time?
I was almost 24. Yeah, another month or two, I would have been 24. No, but so then all I did, my wife worked on Sundays at the telephone company, so I went down. So the next race they ran was a 30K, and I was telling you, I didn't even know what the heck is 30K. They said, oh, 18, a little over 18 miles.
This is in where? Central
On
Park?
Sedgwick Avenue.
Sedgwick
No,
Avenue
all of
again.
these races were on Sedgwick Avenue.
Including the cherry tree.
Everything. For up until 69, everything was run up there at the beginning of the year. And the next race was a 30K. That's when I finished behind Scandor, and he asked me if I was interested in running with the Millrose. And I told you, it was so icy. But the next race was 20 miles and 17.4 inches of snow. And then here's another thing. I figured I could maybe win this because nobody's going to show up. So Gordon McKenzie, Ted Corbett, 2 Olympians show up.
Names from the past. Gordon McKenzie.
And 8 out of the 10 guys that showed up finished the race. But, I mean, unbelievable. Then I think we had a 12-miler before.
Wait a minute. How did you do in that race against Gordon and Ted?
I finished 5th out of the 10 starters. 2 guys didn't finish, so 8 guys finished the race. No, but I think Gordon ran like 2:01, and Corbett ran 2:03. And I ran around 2:20 something or 2:30 something. No, but could you imagine? You couldn't imagine running that far.
Well, runners are known to do crazy things. You know what's interesting? That's a lost era. Most young runners today really have no idea that they were pioneers. And it's amazing. I mean, we've been running since the Stone Age, but in terms of folklore, in terms of strategy, in terms of heroes, you're one of them.
Well, the heroes were the timers and the teaks that showed up. There was a guy named Schweed that showed up. He had to be in his 80s. Now, Joe Kleineman at that time was a timer. And they had Nick Bellotta. They had all these guys that were there no matter what the weather. These guys were there.
And
I mean, unbelievable. Yes.
It was before electronic equipment.
And then there was a 12-miler, then the cherry tree. Now, we were running in minus 40 degrees all winter. Now it went up to 65. That's why I got dehydrated in the race. I was shocked that I had to start walking and running.
65 degrees temperature. I mean, that's a huge 100-degree difference.
But
you ran not 40 degrees under.
But we didn't have water in them days. That was another thing. If somebody was giving us water.
Well, I remember when they tell the story of Greta White's, where she ran her first New York City. She ran the whole thing without any water. They had water stations. Nobody occurred to them. Wow, we should have water stations. So you predate water stations. You predate Nike shoes. You predate everything.
But if we didn't have such cold, I probably would have been, all of us would have been able to handle the 65 degrees better. But the fact that it went up,
Now, what time of the year was that?
that's a February.
So you just luck. The bad luck was it was a warm February. Usually it's cold.
Well, it was the warmest day compared to what we had, and it was about almost 25 degrees warmer, or at least 20 degrees warmer. But I got through it. But the thing was, is when we were running, now we were getting ready. I asked these guys, what do you do now? Now they're getting ready for Boston. We didn't think nothing about running a marathon every couple of months, because after we ran Boston, then we'd run Yonkers. All of this was a regular routine every year when I ran.
Year. Yeah, Boston's considered the longest running marathon, followed by Yonkers. So have you done Boston and Yonkers back?
Oh yeah, no, I did that the first 4 or 5 years. That's what we ran almost every year. That's what I'm saying. Then we'd go down to Philadelphia and run other races. To Shanahan, we went down there and ran that. Like I'm saying, I don't know. I think a lot of times we'd ran 5 or 6 marathons a year.
Interesting. Of course, now with the professionals, they limit themselves maybe 2, but it's a big money maker now. In those days, you were pure amateurs. You didn't get paid a dime.
No, but that's what I'm saying. If I had a regular job, and you had that's why Johnny Kelly, he had to run against guys that came over here a month ahead of time and ran like 30 miles a day. Those Oksanen and those guys. But the first year, he won it 3 times. But
you mean Boston? Yeah.
Yeah. The first year when I went, nobody mentions Kelly got knocked over by a dog.
What do you mean knocked over?
During the race. A dog ran out and he fell over. He had the lead and he fell over, boom, and he still wound up finishing second. I think he would have run that for sure if he didn't get knocked over by that dog.
Wow, what a story. And you were there for that race?
Yeah, in 61. That was the first race I ran up in Boston.
Well, what was your best time in Boston? Because
2:34.
2:34.
Yeah.
What's your best time overall? Is it in New York?
No, I ran in Philly 2:30, I think. But I think I could run better than 2:20, knowing what I know now, how to train and how to get ready for things. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying, but you learn important lessons from that because you're considered an extremely knowledgeable coach. So you were learning from doing. It isn't like you went to a fancy school and they gave you, tests and diplomas. You learned from the school of hard knocks. You learned from doing it.
Well, I mean, some guys, when I first started running, if they were doing speed work and you go with them, they would murder you. You gotta, you have to work your way into things. If you're not, like a lot of these guys probably ran in college and everything. That's why when I went and ran on Van Cortlandt a couple of times, it was no good. So I didn't do that. I did my own thing after that. And
in terms of speed work, you didn't like the way?
Speed work, yes. No, I did my own. In fact, I used to run with the team too, like speed work. I'd run with. We worked out at Columbia for quite a while before they put in the new stuff. It was beautiful up there.
Well, wait a minute. We talk about the Armory?
No, we're talking about Columbia's football stadium.
Okay.
It's a track now. They have the track inside a stadium, but they wouldn't let you in there when it was first new. Then when they let us in, it was okay. But before that, the track was outside of the stadium. It was a cinder track, and I loved that track. But they changed everything. They're actually opening up to the neighborhood now. They're allowing people to go in and walk and stuff on there a lot of times on the track.
This is Columbia.
Yeah, because I live right on 215th. I see the track when I come out of my house.
Interesting. I'm not familiar with that track. Of course, I know about the Armory, and the Armory has been rehabilitated. Now it has this beautifully.
Yeah, Normie built a beautiful track, banked.
Have you run on that? On the bank?
Yeah, we've run on it, but we don't go in there too much. The last time I had it when I had a relay team, a 2-mile women's relay team. But since then, we don't go on it. Because when you're doing speed work on that, unless you're going to be doing races, a lot of people don't like it. It bothers their hips and bothers their legs and stuff.
I did it once with a relay.
Well, that's it. Relays and sprints and stuff. The colleges must love it.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh! And I was going to say when I got on it and I was walking, I felt like I was flying, even though I was walking. I said, "This is incredible." You feel like it was such an incredible feeling. I did the relay, and I did it with my teammate, one of my teammates. Oh, in fact, she came into the rescue because one was running late, and the teammate that saved us was GLM.
Okay, all right.
Right.
But you ran the relay?
I ran the relay.
You didn't run it this year, though?
No. This is going back.
No, because they have the
15 years.
relay now, because they,
Yeah, the marathon
yeah,
relay.
they have the
Yeah,
marathon relay.
I know. I never done that. So the Millrose Games is very, very famous. So it's the Millrose Games and the Millrose Club. How are they connected?
Well, they were originated by the John Wanamakers, but the Millrose A.A. was supposed to take care of us. But down through the years, they've drawn back. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they were supplying the colleges or what they were doing. But I mean, it has started out as a company team taking care of and we're still here. But I don't really know what.
This is going back
on
years
with
and
them.
years and years.
Yeah.
The Watermaker. That's interesting because the mile is named the Watermaker Mile, and I never knew why it was named the Watermaker, because it's named after the founder of the Millrose, and he named the team after his house. You said.
After his summer home,
After his summer home.
his summer home. I want to definitely mention somebody who down through the years has been fantastic to everybody. He's gone now, and he was 107 years old.
Not Joe Kleiderman.
Albert Hamilton Gordon. Al Gordon. He was 107, I think,
Oh,
when
Al
he passed
Gordon.
away.
He has to race the.
Yes,
Yes,
anytime
yes.
I needed anything, Joe Kleiderman told me to call him, and he gave me $5,000 to send my women to South Africa. He gave me another $5,000 for anytime I needed anything, you call him. And I would only use that when I had a team that I thought could compete.
Al Gordon.
Al Gordon.
Yeah. I know the name because there's the Al Gordon race. Joe Kleiderman, I know the name because there's a race. So a lot of these early pioneers have races named. He lived a long time.
Yes.
And both of them have races named after them. Is there a race named after you, Coach? Not yet.
Not yet. Soon.
We're going to name the cross-country race from New York to San Francisco.
Maybe a race on Cedric Avenue.
Oh, Cedric Avenue. Yeah, well, we wanted to go back and run the old marathon once again.
The cherry tree.
Yeah. Because I go over there to check that track out. I mean, where we ran, and it's almost exactly the same. It hasn't changed. The
Where is
only
it?
thing they did is where the start and where the finish is, they put an entrance to the Major Deacon, which I don't think would be a big deal. We just put some rubber things over there, and we would, but
Talk to the.
But we'll invitational. No, it's going to make it a small race. We're
small
just going to
race
make it
invitation. Yeah, roadrunners will probably help you out, and the borough president.
We never needed police or anything. We went down there and asked them just so that we're at 173rd, there's like a crossover. We had somebody that just direct traffic if we had runners coming by. That's all.
But how many runners did you have?
No, but I'm saying, if you had 50 or 100, whatever. But I'm saying you want to have somebody that just for safety,
Yeah.
and they know, and that. We never had a problem up there.
Yeah.
All
Well,
the years we
nowadays,
ran there.
Life.
Well, with the
life,
thousands, forget it.
now
forget
you need permits. You need insurance. It's a big business now. Okay. Well, Claude, is there any stories about the Millrose that you can share with us? Because you actually maintain a Facebook page of 40 or 50 diehards of former Millrose people. The funny thing is, you and I know each other from Nike Town. And I didn't realize, these other people like Linda Motello and these other people were also Millrose. So, do you have a favorite Millrose story you can share?
Trying to keep it with the coach, so we're Millrose story. Basically, just being around, we're like a family. We're smaller, and it's just being around Coach and all he has to tell us and information. Like this year, I was running a marathon, and he said, "Claude, if you feel tired, just give high lifts. Go on your toes for about 30 seconds, and you're gonna see that's gonna change." So he's always teaching us correct things,
So even though you
improve us.
retire, you still give advice.
Well,
he's
no, what
coaching.
happens if you're running on a flat course, because your muscles are not changing, they'll all of a sudden get stiff or tired on you. But now if you sprint for 50 meters and change it, your legs come back to you. You know, it's the change. When you have hilly, usually that's a different story. But when it's just a flat court, like if you go to Atlantic City, that's what happens. You running along there, all of a sudden your legs get stiff. But if you get up on your toes and sprint a little and then go back again, you change the muscle and it.
How did you learn that?
By doing it.
Okay.
You know,
So I did that for the first time this year.
You did, and it worked.
It worked.
How many marathons do you do a year?
This year I did 5. Just finished at Honolulu. Just got back and
Oh,
just
nice.
finished for the season. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Hopefully you got a little vacation time there.
Not really. A lot of hiking, and it was tough. It wasn't laying on the beach and relax. It was just a lot of hiking, a lot of running. So but now I'm relaxing.
Well, why do you do so many marathons? in
It's
one
actually the first year I did 5. Just wanted to break 3 hours at some point this year. So if I do, you know, a few of them at some point I could do it, and I did it. So I was happy.
year? Where did you break 3?
New York City, the
The
home.
tough one. Oh, but the weather was great. That
wonderful.
made all the difference.
Yeah.
If you were doing Boston, forget about it. It was like a winter
Oh,
storm.
I did that one too. This
How
year.
well did you do there?
3:11. I did okay. Yeah, considering
considering?
it was
Considering, you know, better conditions, you would have done it 20 minutes better. You would have
I think
done
I
under
would have
3.
broken 3. Yeah.
So what's your best marathon time?
2:56 in Philadelphia. I did 2:56 in New York also this year. So
Well, which is tougher, New York or Philadelphia?
New York.
With all those turns.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, wow. So what's your future event for you?
I'm doing Boston again this year, and then hopefully do all the majors, probably Japan, Berlin.
You haven't done those yet.
No, so this is on my schedule for the next few years.
So on your bucket list, you want to do the majors.
That's it. And
Oh,
then
excellent.
maybe the comrades also.
Have you done comrades, coach?
Yeah, but I took the women,
To where?
the comrades in South Africa, right?
So the women didn't. You didn't do it personally.
No, I just went with them.
You were the coach.
Yeah. Well, they insisted on me going. I wasn't going to go, but then they said, no, you got to go.
Well, you're the coach. You're the father figure.
Maybe he'll come again. We're hoping.
All right. You know, let's wrap up by telling us, you know, what are the pioneers, the first president of New York Road Runners,
Ted
Ted
Corbett.
Corbett. In fact, that's how, through Gary's, is how we got reconnected, because Gary, once a year, brings in a panel. You were there this year. Last year, I met Peter Roth and had him on the show. This year, I said, you know, this guy's a natural. He's a natural on TV. So that's why I reached out to Gary. Said,
Well, Gary remembers me as a kid. He saw me running and everything. In fact, he gave me some papers just in the last couple of months where Corbett was going over my running and how I proved that by running the ultra, I was still fast. Because a lot of people say when you run, you know, long, you get slow. And that's what happened when I came back from London to Brighton. I finished under 16 minutes in the three-mile cross-country race. Everybody was shocked.
And that was
a
a
week
personal
later.
best for that time?
I don't know if it was my personal best, but the fact I didn't get under 16 minutes too many times up there at Van Cortlandt. 3 miles.
Okay.
But that was a week after
running
London to
52
Brighton.
miles.
Yeah.
That's amazing, because nowadays, I don't know if the science has gotten better. That's not recommended to do. They want you to rest.
Well, it depends on how you like. If you wanted to run something, like I tell all of them, if you've run a long race and you're thinking about running a short race, the next day you go out and walk and jog, and then every day. By the end of the week, if you've recovered, you're running at top speed without any problem. And that's exactly how it worked out for me.
That's interesting. I think that's a lost art. You know, there's so many coaches nowadays. In fact, some of the coaches complain there are too many coaches. You know, the knowledge that you bring is almost being lost. So are you going to write a book to share with us?
Well,
this experience?
I'm trying to write a book only on the story of my running in the 60s, because a lot of people seem to get a kick out of it. I don't know, you know.
Do you have a title yet?
Yeah, In the Shadow of the Yankee Stadium, 1960.
That's the full title. Or do you want to have a short title?
That's the title.
Now, when you were growing up, you got an interesting name, Garlepp. Did you have a nickname? Did they call you Galloping John or anything like that?
No, I wasn't that much of a runner. I mean, you know, I was like, you know, average runner. I
Okay.
wasn't fast. I wasn't slow. I was an average. But you grow up, you're positive about everything. You try to do the best you can, and you learn from your mistakes. Some kids get, because they make a mistake or something, they back. I said, no. Now you learn something. Now you keep working at it. And that's the way it is.
In fact, they say that in business. If you never make a mistake, you never learn. If you always play it safe, you never become much of anything. You become, stale. So the same thing in running. Sometimes you need to take a chance and learn from it.
Well, see with that my experience by running the first time indoors. Years later, I made it to the last 10 in the 3-mile championship. Because what they do, they allow you to go around. Then at a certain point, they only allow the last 10 guys to stay in. And when I was running, there was about 4 guys in front of me. They were jockeying themselves for the last. And then I sprinted around and got past them. And I think I did 15-15, something like that.
Is this in the Armory?
Yeah.
Excellent. And this is with the wooden tracks, right?
Yep.
All right. And then what are these little booklets about?
This is what I bought. When I ran the 4-miler, I met Nat Cyrilnik was selling. He actually asked me if I wanted to join the Roadrunners Club, and I gave him. He said $2, and I entered and then he had this magazine, which is made by Brownie Ross, who was an Olympian, who was a friend of Ted Corbett.
Brownie Ross.
And this is what he started. This is the most fantastic magazine ever made, and it went up until the 70s, and then I don't know guys who had bought it out, but. You got results of colleges and everything in there.
Oh,
beautiful.
Fantastic. And of course, it's out of print and it's probably very valuable.
And like I say, I got a big kick out of the one with, this was a 17-year-old Canadian, was setting all kinds of records, Bruce Kidd.
My God, a name from the past.
Yep.
Never heard of Bruce Kidd. All right. And finally, Coach, is there a final word you want to share with us?
Rest is a positive thing, and that's all, folks.
Claude, any final words either about the coach or about your own experiences?
Final words about the coach. Learning under him is just wonderful, and I learn every day. Every day I see him, you learn something new, and it's never boring. It's just a great thing.
Thank you so much for keeping the coach young by insisting that he stays involved, whether he likes it or not. All right.
Coming every Tuesday for workouts.
All right. On that note.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good.